The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, is a lifeline for over 42 million Americans, reaching into nearly every community across the country, from bustling cities to quiet rural towns. It helps families put food on the table when times are tough, ensuring that no one has to choose between paying bills and buying groceries. SNAP benefits are delivered through EBT cards, which work just like debit cards at grocery stores and farmers markets, making it easier and more discreet for people to access the food they need. The program is designed as temporary support, helping people after job loss, during periods of low wages, or while managing a disability or unexpected hardship. It acts as a bridge, giving people time to get back on their feet. For many, especially children and seniors, SNAP is the difference between eating and going hungry. It provides vital nutrition that supports healthy growth, learning, and well-being. Every dollar spent through SNAP not only feeds families but also boosts local economies, supporting jobs and small businesses in neighborhoods across America. The program's impact is vast. 1 in 4 American children relies on SNAP for their daily meals, and countless families depend on it during difficult times. It's a critical tool in fighting poverty and food insecurity, helping to prevent hunger and its long-term effects on health and opportunity. For over 60 years, SNAP has stood as a bipartisan promise that no one in America should go hungry, reflecting the nation's values of compassion and support for those in need. But this promise was recently tested in an unprecedented crisis, as millions face new challenges and uncertainty, raising urgent questions about the program's future and its ability to adapt. The events that followed would challenge the nation's commitment to its most vulnerable citizens and reveal just how essential SNAP is in times of crisis. In November 2025, a government shutdown escalated into a crisis unlike any before, one that would test the resilience of millions of Americans and the systems meant to protect them. For the first time in its history, SNAP funding lapsed, leaving a critical lifeline for low-income families suddenly severed. 42 million Americans awoke to find their EBT cards empty, with no monthly assistance to buy groceries. The shock rippled through households, as parents struggled to explain to their children why the fridge was bare and the cupboards empty. The Trump administration claimed it lacked both the legal authority and the necessary funds to distribute benefits, choosing to prioritize the WIC program for women and children instead, but leaving millions without support. The result, families faced empty pantries and impossible choices just weeks before Thanksgiving, a time usually marked by abundance and togetherness. Food banks and charities were overwhelmed as demand surged overnight, with volunteers scrambling to keep up and shelves emptying faster than they could be restocked. The shutdown transformed from a political standoff into a real hunger crisis, with families across the country left in limbo, unsure where their next meal would come from. News reports showed long lines at food pantries, and advocacy groups warned of a looming public health disaster as hunger and uncertainty spread to communities that had never faced such hardship before. The nation was forced to confront a simple, urgent question: how could this happen in America, a country of such wealth and promise? The SNAP crisis became a moral test, exposing the fragility of the country's anti-hunger safety net and the deep inequalities that persist beneath the surface. The fate of millions now depended on what happened next, as the nation watched and waited for a solution that could restore hope and dignity to those left behind. As families across the country struggled to put food on the table, a wave of uncertainty swept through communities. In response, states and advocacy groups banded together and sued, demanding that the government immediately release November SNAP benefits, which millions depended on to feed their families. The stakes were high, and the pressure was mounting as advocates rallied outside courthouses and organized petitions. U.S. District Judge John McConnell Jr. listened to the urgent pleas and ruled in their favor, ordering the administration to use emergency funds to pay SNAP recipients without delay. In a strongly worded rebuke, he criticized the administration for using political gridlock as an excuse to let Americans go hungry, emphasizing that basic needs should never be bargaining chips. The Trump administration, however, pushed back hard. Officials called the ruling judicial overreach and quickly filed an appeal, determined to challenge the court's authority. The case escalated to the First Circuit Court of Appeals, where a panel of judges reviewed the arguments and ultimately upheld the lower court's order, keeping the pressure on the administration to act. With time running out and the fate of millions at stake, the administration took the fight to the Supreme Court, hoping for a different outcome. The legal battle now centered on a critical question. Could the executive branch withhold food assistance during a government shutdown, even when so many were at risk of hunger? Across the nation, millions waited anxiously, glued to news reports, as the highest court in the land prepared to weigh in on a decision that would affect their daily lives. The stakes were clear. The right to food for millions of Americans, including children and seniors, hung in the balance as uncertainty loomed. The unfolding courtroom drama underscored just how essential and vulnerable SNAP had become in the lives of so many, revealing the fragility of the nation's safety net. The nation braced for a landmark decision, knowing it would shape the future of food security in America for years to come. All eyes turned to the Supreme Court, awaiting the next move in this historic battle for basic human needs. The Supreme Court issued two dramatic, conflicting rulings on SNAP. First, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson granted a temporary stay, pausing the order to release SNAP funds, a blow to families hoping for immediate relief. EBT cards remained empty, and the administration argued it was a necessary pause to prevent courts from dictating federal spending. But then, in a separate case, the full court blocked the administration's plan to impose stricter work requirements on SNAP recipients. The 5-4 decision, with Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett joining the liberals, protected 700,000 people from losing benefits. The court signaled that sweeping changes to SNAP couldn't happen without Congress. Anti-poverty advocates celebrated, calling it a victory for vulnerable Americans. In just days, the Supreme Court had both delayed relief and protected the program's core mission. The nation was left with uncertainty, and millions still waiting for help. The legal battle was far from over. Amid the legal chaos, Warren Buffett entered the debate, lending his voice to the defense of SNAP. Buffett praised the Supreme Court's decision to block stricter work requirements, calling food security a basic human right. He argued that investing in nutrition for children and families is not charity, but a smart investment in America's future. Buffett's support reframed SNAP as a foundation for economic growth and stability, not just a safety net. His intervention cut through the political noise, urging leaders to find lasting solutions to poverty. Buffett's message, protecting vulnerable families, is both the right and the smart thing to do. His words energized advocates and reminded the nation that food security is a measure of our character. The debate had gained a powerful new voice. While courts and politicians argued, families faced hunger in real time. Food pantries saw record lines as SNAP benefits vanished, and charities struggled to keep up. Advocacy groups highlighted the harm to children, seniors, and people with disabilities, calling the crisis a manufactured disaster. Some states refused to wait for Washington. California, New York, and others used their own funds to issue November SNAP benefits. This state-level defiance created a patchwork of relief, with some families rescued and others left behind. Governors argued they had a moral duty to act, even as the federal system fractured. For families who received aid, it was a lifeline. For others, the uncertainty deepened. The crisis exposed the limits of the nation's safety net and the consequences of political gridlock. The question remained, could the system withstand another shock? The answer would shape the lives of millions. The Supreme Court's split ruling sent shockwaves through Washington and the states. The Trump administration welcomed the temporary stay but was stunned by the court's rejection of stricter work requirements. Democrats and advocates hailed the decision as a victory for low-income Americans and a check on executive power. Governors in at least 9 states, including New York and California, issued SNAP benefits themselves, defying the federal pause. Their actions were both practical and political, signaling a deep rift with Washington. The crisis revealed a fractured federal-state partnership and forced states to step up where the federal government would not. The hunger crisis became a battleground for the nation's values and priorities. The political fallout was immediate, and the future of SNAP remained uncertain. The nation watched as the standoff continued. The SNAP crisis left a lasting mark, exposing the fragility of America's social safety net. The Supreme Court's decisions protected hundreds of thousands from losing benefits, but the funding crisis remained unresolved. Millions still faced uncertainty, relying on food banks and community support as the shutdown dragged on. The episode forced a national reckoning. Should basic needs like food ever be used as political leverage? States' actions highlighted growing tensions over who is responsible for caring for the vulnerable. The crisis underscored the need for a strong, reliable safety net and bipartisan commitment to protect it. The court's ruling blocked sudden changes, but the question of funding stability lingers. America must now decide, is food security a fundamental right, or just another casualty of political division? The answer will define the nation's character for years to come.